this country, but 19 other countries. And when Gary Keller and his research team did some research on who was reading this book, it was really interesting to discover that business people from all walks of life were reading it, but who do you think was not reading it?
Real estate agents.
Keller Williams agents specifically. They couldn't understand why everybody was reading this book. It remained on the #1 bestseller list for 2 years, and yet KW agents themselves, who actually it was written for, was not reading it. So what they decided to do is they decided to have a good old-fashioned book tour. So they hired 4 instructors to travel the country teaching people the concepts out of this book. And when you registered for that class, you actually got the book. Even if you already had one, you received another one. And you received the highlighter pen. And in that morning, you actually went through the book, which we're going to do a little bit today, talking about some of the highlights and the strategies. In the afternoon, oddly enough, we taught the MREA book again because agents kind of had gotten away from that. And I was lucky enough to be chosen as one of those 4 instructors, and I was all over the country for about 1.5 years. And so I haven't taught this in a while, so it's kind of really fun to come back to this because I believe that this, of all of our Keller Williams material, is the one that will change your life the most. And I'm hoping that those of you that are listening that are also instructors will grab onto some of this material. You don't have to teach for 3 hours, but maybe 1 or 2 of the concepts, and keep it in front of our agents because it's super, super important. Okay, so how are we doing over here, Larry?
You're good. You have the 30 participants and keep going.
Okay, very good. So if you happen to have your book, you're going to start by opening it to page 13. If you don't have the book, don't worry. You might want to write these page numbers down so that you can reflect back later when you have the book. I believe that most of you know who I am. If you don't and you're new to our companies, my name is Jackie Ellis. I'm the owner and operating principal of both of our market centers, meaning KW Innovations here in Boynton, where we are coming to you from, and also Keller Williams Boca Raton. And teaching agents like you guys are one of my absolute favorite things to do. If I could do this all day, every day, it would truly be a life design. Okay, so what are we going to cover? Right away, we're going to talk about what is the one thing, what is the domino effect, and what are the lies between you and success. And it's interesting that Gary Keller chose to call them lies, because if you remember in the MREA book, the red book, he called them myth understandings. Those were things that were getting between agents, maybe limiting beliefs that would stop agents from being as successful as they were created to be. And so in this particular book, we're calling them, he just came out and said they're lies. And these lies, if you would believe in them, might be the one thing standing between you and all of the success that you deserve in life. So I love that section. Okay, let's go ahead and turn the screen since you're over there. Again, page 13. Anybody know what happens? Can you move it one more, please? In the Netherlands, in a place called Leeuwarden. Anybody hear that? Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. Famous for something. Do you know what it is?
Domino fall?
Well, in 2009, they had the world record domino fall. Interesting. They lined up 4,491,863 dominoes in a dazzling display. This is not the display that you're looking at. It's just the only one I could find online. And now, how do you set a domino display? How do you start by having it in action and every one of them falling over? How do you start it?
Not for the first one.
And do you have to hit it hard? So you just tap that first one, and then what happens? It's the domino effect. And what's interesting about that is that it created 94,000, how do you say this, joules of energy. Now, that's as much energy as it takes for an average sized male to do 545 push-ups. Now, when I teach this across the country, I ask for a volunteer to come up and share with us what 545 push-ups looks like. And I haven't had that volunteer yet. But is that incredible?
Yeah.
The same amount of energy to do over 500 push-ups started just by somebody tapping lightly that first one, and it created that much energy. So that's kind of what the domino effect means. And then in 1983, if you can switch this to the next, are you going to be running that PowerPoint?
Just for now.
Okay, then, okay, sit down and get comfy. Go back, because I want to talk about Lauren Whitehead. Okay, anybody know who Lauren Whitehead is? Say no, because I know none of you do. I'm still on page 12 if you, in your book, if you want to, the second paragraph. Actually, this is the second paragraph on page 13, if you want to highlight it. In 1983, Lauren Whitehead wrote in the American Journal of Physics that he discovered that domino falls could not only topple many things, they could also topple bigger things. He described how a single domino is capable of bringing down another domino that's actually 50% larger. So it's not, it not only can knock down the next domino that's the same size, it can knock down one that's 50% larger, which is going to knock one down that's 50% larger. I'm now going to go to page 14. Do you see the implication? You see where I am? Start highlighting. Not only can one knock over others, but also others that are successfully larger. In 2001, a physicist from San Francisco's Exploratorium reproduced Whitehead's experiment by creating 8 dominoes out of plywood, each of which was 50% larger than the one before. The first one was mere 2 inches, and then the last one was 3 feet tall. The resulting domino fall began with a gentle tick and quickly ended with a loud slam. So why are we talking about dominoes and plywood? Well, here's why, if you want to go to the next screen. And this is on page 8 of your, on page 12 of your book. The domino effect, what we're trying to say is that extraordinary success is sequential, not simultaneous. If you want to have big success in business or in your relationships or spiritually, whatever it is, you just need to figure out what that first domino is and then lightly tap it, lightly put it in action, and then the next one will be hit and it will start a sequential line of success. If you look at the diagram either on the screen or on in your book, you can see that in this diagram, the first domino is how big? Can I see it? 2 inches tall. You following me?
Yep.
And then if it hit the next one that was 50% larger and 50% larger, and the next one, by the time it got to 18, it could knock over what's there? What's that little picture of?
Leaning Tower Pisa.
It could knock it over on 18 dominoes.
That's crazy.
Then when it got to 25, what's it knocking over?
The
Eiffel Tower. What about when it gets to 51?
Mount Everest.
Is that crazy?
That is crazy.
And now when it gets to 57,
The distance to the moon.
yeah, all because of the first little domino. So what do you think the secret here is? If we know that the first domino is going to, are you running a chat box by chance?
Start small.
Well, I think the secret is that you have to make sure that you know what that first domino is. You have to know what is it that I'm going to hit first that's going to make the next one 50% larger, easier and easier and easier. Before you know it, I have success the size of the moon.
I got it, guys. I'm doing the chat.
Oh, you got
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Awesome.
Emily is running the chat box for us. She's in the back of the room. Come up, Emily, and just smile so they know who you are. Oh, sorry.
Can they see?
All right. Let's go to page 35 in your one thing book if you happen to have it. And we're going to go to the next screen. Left in its raw state, it's the second paragraph I'm reading from. Left in its raw state, as a simple inventory, a to-do list can easily lead you astray. A to-do list is simply the things you think you need to do. The first thing on your list is just the first thing you thought of. To-do lists inherently lack the intent of success. Now let me ask you guys something. Who here does loves to make a to-do list either for the week? Yeah, raise your hand. Who here likes to, if you've done something already, you still write it down so you can check it off?
Me.
Okay. Okay. You thought you were the only one, right? So we think that a to-do list might be one of the things that we've all learned to do that could be a lie that you're believing and that could be holding you back from success. And what we need to do is more demonstrate that for you in a minute. But I am now on page 35, and I'm talking about the first lie between you and success, which is everything equally matters equally. How are you doing here?
Good.
Okay. Here are all the lies that are just laid out before us on the screen. Number one, everything matters equally. Number two is multitasking. Love to talk about multitasking. Number three is a disciplined life, leading a disciplined life. Who wants to lead a disciplined life? Raise your hand. Okay, we're going to talk about that. That could be a lie. Willpower is always on will call. Anytime I need willpower, I can just drum it up, no problem. A balanced life. I want to have a balanced life. I want to have a disciplined life and a balanced life. Sound familiar? Isn't that what everybody wants? And then big is bad. These are the 6 lies that we're going to talk to you guys about today that could be holding you back. One of them, 2 of them, perhaps all 6. So the 80-20 rule that we're going to discuss on the next screen, Mr. Parker, who can tell me what the 80-20 principle is? Do you guys know what that is? Because we talk about that a lot here at KW.
20% of your action produces 80% of your results.
20% of your action can produce 80% of your results. Okay, what else? What else could it mean?
20% of your clients create 80% of the headaches.
Dan said 20% of your clients produce 80% of your income. I changed his words a little bit because we're in a positive place.
I would guess that the top 80% of your results are mandated by the top 20% of your efforts.
Okay, exactly right. So it's funny that we all went to the 80-20 principle and applied it to work or income, which is very true. So let's talk about this principle before we move on. So there was an Italian economist by the name of Pareto. He's the one who came up with this principle. And he noticed many years ago, looking around his country, that 80% of the wealth, and actually back then wealth was land, so let's just, that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the people. And so he started to study that. And do you think that that is true today, that wealth is still held by, the 80% of the wealth in the world is held by 20% of the people? The answer is yes. Now, I want to prove to you how strong this 80-20 principle is and how it's everywhere in your life. So first, let's just recognize the power of it. Let's say that as of tomorrow, we wake up and the wealth in the world is evenly distributed through all of the people of the entire world. Everybody in the world now woke up tomorrow morning with the same amount of money or wealth in their hold. How long do you think it would take to go back to the 80-20, where 80% of the people, 20% of the people owned 80% of the wealth again? How long? First of all, do you believe it would go back to that?
Absolutely.
Yes. How long?
Less than a year.
How long?
Yeah.
A year, 90 days?
Less than a year for sure.
Yeah, not 9 months, 9 months. And it would be back to what it is today. So I don't think, what's the matter? You could just talk, we're informal here.
You could close the chat box on this window.
Yeah, I'm not getting paid a lot for this gig, so feel free.
Close the chat box.
Bring your mouse over there.
Okay, so let's talk about how this principle goes into your real life. I want you to picture, let's picture your closet at home. Do you realize that you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time?
Yeah.
20% of your shoes 80% of the time.
This is true.
I could even go into the little jewelry box that you own and share with you that you wear, women, you wear your earrings, you wear 20% of them 80% of the time. Is that not true?
This is very true.
Okay, let's go into your kitchen. Let's open up your cabinets where you keep your glasses to drink. Would we say that you probably drink 20 out of 20%
So true.
of those glasses 80% of the time? Would you use the dishes, 20% of your dishes? Do you use those 80% of your time?
Yes.
Justin
else
uses
does this show?
100% of his underwear though.
What
He
is,
runs out. He runs out, and I have to.
he uses both of those pairs constantly, huh? That's good to know.
Even the
Good
ones
to
with
know.
holes in them, he makes sure to use
I
those.
knew somebody would break this principle. Where else do you think it shows up? Are there any other examples that you guys can come up with?
They say relationships. Have you ever heard that saying?
No,
that
the people you keep in touch with.
People you keep in touch with. Oh, let's talk about that database. Everybody says they're servicing their database, they're keeping in contact. Would we call the same 20% of the people in that database 80% of the time?
Yes,
Good one, whoever said that, really good. What was your example, Emily?
relationships.
So tell me about it, relationships.
They say that we go looking for the 20% that we don't have and leave the 80%, willing to leave the 80% that we do have.
Okay, that one's a little over my head. I need to take that course with you. Emily's using relationships as an example. It goes right to your desk. You know, you have a container of pens perhaps on your desk. You're going to use the same 20% of the pens 80% of the time. It goes on and on and on. You cannot ignore this principle. It is everywhere in your life. It is very powerful. And the second that you start to try to ignore it, it will snap back. So let's just say we made a decision that we are now going to wear all of our clothes equally. How long do you think that would last?
A month.
Less than a week.
How long?
Less than a week.
Yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening. Yeah, go. Thought I heard my name. Okay, so now let's go back to say, okay, if we knew that 20% of our activities, the hardcore 20% was going to bring in 80% of our money, would we really want to know what that 20% is so that we're not messing around with the wrong action? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a piece of paper, any piece of paper, and draw a line straight down the middle, from the top to the bottom. Make yourself two halves of the paper. You can leave it right there. Okay, tell me when you have the line down the middle. Now we're going to do what's called a brain dump. And leaders in the office, and also anybody leading anybody in their life, which some of us are leading children, some of us are leading sellers and buyers to make decisions. Would you agree with some days you just wake up and you have so much in your head that it's hard to get started? It might even be hard to go to sleep. Does anybody have that running through their head at night? I would like to teach a class in sleeping because I think I'm very good at that, but nobody has requested that yet, so I'll stick with the one thing for now. But there are a lot of people who wake up with anxiety because they have so much in their head. And so this is a great exercise to do for anybody that you're coaching that says, I have so much, I'm so busy, I don't know where to start. So the first thing I want you to do is what we refer to as a brain dump. On the left side, you're going to just start writing a to-do list of everything you have to do. Everything from grocery shopping to pick up dry cleaning, everything, absolutely everything you need to do. Just dump it out on paper.
Mary says that she will request the sleeping class.
Okay, Mary.
And Sonia says she's interested too. Ileanit said, is it a 1 to 4 p.m. class as well? A sleep class?
I have many versions. You know, we're joking a little bit about sleeping, but this exercise, it's meaningful. There are many of us that are carrying around too much in our brains that we can't shut it off. Ryan McHugh, anywhere on this call?
I don't see him on.
He's my perfect example of that. Okay, so anything you need to do in business, anything you need to do home. Pick up the kids from daycare. What is it that you have to do? Practice your presentations, negotiate an offer, return a call from a seller. Find a seller. There's a lot in your head, so just keep dumping it. You have to do laundry when you get home, write it down. Get gas in your car. Change your underwear.
You can't make me.
I so hope I get you for Secret Santa. So you can be funny on a Zoom.
Yeah, with Justin.
With Justin and Shelby, they help. All right, 2 more minutes. You're gonna notice the more you write, the more you are making space in your head for other things to come in, and you end up keep writing because you're making room. Now, I'm judging by the few people in the room with me who are still writing that via Zoom should also still be writing. Let me come and see you. Karina, happy birthday to your son. You're welcome. All right, 1 more minute. You have a teenager that comes home from high school saying, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. I'm so overwhelmed. This is a great exercise to sit down and say, okay, let's just write down everything that you need to do and give them time to do it. All right, so hopefully you're wrapping up your list. I want you to take your pen now and I want you to look at that list and I want you to circle the top 4. Now, what are the top 4? What do I mean by top 4? The 4 that if you did would make more of a difference than the other ones and also would make the other ones almost unnecessary. Like which 4 are gonna have the biggest impact in your life? The biggest positive impact? So just circle 4. Is it hard to find the 4?
Yeah.
Okay, after you circle your 4, I just want you to put your pens down for a sec. Because I want to ask you, do you feel different now that you've written down the list than before when it was all in your head? Is there any difference in feeling just with that small part? If you could read me, anybody. Oh, you lost your chat box. Any difference, you guys in the room? Feel different or not?
Little.
So tell me what a little, like, you feel a little different because?
Well, I really had to kind of think which 4 were the most important to me.
Well, before the 4, even just writing all of them down, getting them out of your head onto paper, did it help anybody feel a little lighter, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Definitely felt.
Yes and no.
Yeah. So for me, when I do it, like Dan had just said in the room, thank you, Emily, is that the blood pressure goes down a little bit because I'm not carrying it in my head so much. I don't have to spin that around so much. I got it out on paper. So that is where a to-do list is helpful. But when you look at that to-do list, that original list, I'm not sure that they're all matter equally in your life. Picking up dry cleaning is not as important as getting a listing. Do you see what I mean by that? So your top 4 should have a little more weight, a little more impact in your life. So has everybody got their top 4? Because if so, I want you to write those 4 in the right-hand column of your page. Let's just start a new list with just those 4.
What if the 4 aren't so obvious?
My guess is that you went for all the little errands, the little to-do list that you have to do, and not so much of something that could make a big impact in your life. For instance, you know, I always talk about wake up today and get a listing, wake up today and get a listing. That getting a new listing should have been on everybody's list. I don't care who you are. If you're listening, it should have been on your list. And I'm not sure what else would be more important or impactful than that. So maybe just rethink that list. Maybe we have so much little stuff, dry cleaning, pick up the kids, pick up my prescription, that we're forgetting the impactful, important things, which it takes time to learn this. Now, on top of your left column, I want you to write the words to do, because that's an old-fashioned to-do list. On top of your right column, I want you to write success list. Would you agree, if looking at these two, and Shelby, I'm happy to help you a little bit one-on-one with this exercise. Would you agree that if you did the 4 on the right, it almost would make everything on the left easier, or maybe not even very necessary? Like if I got 10 listings today, would I be able to afford somebody to go get that dry cleaning for me?
Yes,
Right? Could I have someone do some things for me if I hit my goals on that left list?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I was typing that in as you were saying that.
Right. So here is, Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, when they wrote all this and they studied the Pareto theory and the Pareto principle, they thought, gee, because they really did a lot of research to put this book together. And so during them, and they're kind of very analytical researchers themselves, and they have an entire research team. So as they're all getting together every day and discussing their recent research, they said, you know, they don't think going just to an 80-20, which is kind of what you just did. You kind of just pulled the 20% out of that big long list and called it a success list. They didn't think it was enough. So they want you to do what they refer to in this book as an extreme Pareto, which means now look at that list of 4 and maybe even number them. What's the most important? What's the second most important? If I did number 1, number 2 wouldn't matter so much. Remember the domino effect. Pick out that number 1 on that success list, and we're going to call that right now the head domino. Tell me if that makes sense.
Sure.
Now, would we agree if we did that number? Do you have your number one yet? Anybody want to share what their number one is? Emily's reading, yes.
Mine was a lead generate.
Lead generate, is that a good number one, yes or no?
Yes.
Sure.
By the way, I want to compliment you on your lead generation. Stand up here so they can see who I'm talking to. Tell them your name.
Andres Medina.
Andres Medina. And are you back there lead generating every morning?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
How, is it fun? Say no.
It's
It's not fun.
I wish it was.
Yeah.
But if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, success isn't fun. It's just the reward that comes with it. That's fun. Okay, so lead generation, yes or no? Great number one. If he lead generated every day, would everything else on that list matter less?
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything different? Doesn't have to be lead generation.
I did communicate with my database intentionally.
Great. A form of lead generation, but database is huge. So we could say, we could take lead generation and even drill it down further, which is what you, who just said that?
That was
Betty,
me.
that was awesome, because you just drilled down. If I'm going to lead generate, really, what does that look like? So I'm even going to go more extreme. Anybody else have anything else?
Well, I went not businessy with my number one, and I put meal planning, because if I have my dinners mapped out for the week, that the stress alone of what's for dinner would let me do so many other things.
Yeah, so I don't know who that was, but fabulous, because if our health governed everything, would it make everything else easier or unnecessary? Yeah, and we're going to actually talk, who was that? I don't like not knowing them. Jolie, thank you for that, because we're going to talk a little bit more about different areas of your life that you can apply this to. And a lot of us went in different directions, which is fine. Any comments on the extreme Pareto or the to-do list versus the success list? Can you see every morning if you were to get up and have a cup of coffee and do this first thing in the morning, write down your to-do list, everything that's in your head, and then prioritize it, how your life might start to change a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah. So who is willing to do that? Who sees some value in that? I have 3, 4 here, but
Himmelbaum.
I have
I
5 in the
agree.
room. Justin,
I
I'd
agree.
like for you to go on Facebook tomorrow morning and write, hey, just finished my success list and here's my number one of the day. Let's start getting some energy through all of us by doing by really leaning into the material that has been provided to us. Does that make sense to you guys? You want to change the screen? I'm sorry. I've been totally ignoring you. Let's just look at this before I change, because I didn't present this screen. If you look here, you look here and you say effort is 20%, and that's going to equal 80% of our results. And then on my screen here, you see on the left is the to-do list, and on the right is the actual success list. So the success list is 20% most of the time of all of that to-do list, and then we even went one further. All right, you guys ready to move on to the next slide?
Yes.
All right, let's change the screen. Change the screen, and let's talk about multitasking. This is such an interesting one.
What was the first slide was what again?
That everything
matters
equally. Everything on that to-do list is not equal. Stop treating like it is. By the way, let's just go back to that. Can we get unfocused in our careers?
Sure.
What do you think unfocused when we say that actually is?
Overly focused on one small thing.
Well, when we say, I want to sit down with you because you're not very focused in your career right now, which happens to all of us. We don't even know it's happening, because what is it that we're actually running around and doing when we're unfocused? Everything on that left-hand column, right? And we don't really know what to focus on because we haven't stopped to prioritize. Being unfocused is just
I was okay.
sight of priority. Hey, you guys, mute yourselves, all right, if you can? Okay. All right, so let's go to the next screen and meet a gentleman by the name of Clifford Nass. Clifford Nass. Clifford Nass is a professor at Stanford University. In the year 2009, he did a study on multitasking. And the reason he did the study is because he himself was not a multitasker. And he was very jealous and envious of those that were. So he figured, let me do a study of multitasking and those that are really good at it, and it might help him personally learn how to do it a little bit more. What's the opposite of multitasking?
One thing, focus.
One thing at a time, one thing at a time, one thing at a time. Do we in our careers multitask, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna, and has our society decided that multitasking is a very positive, must-have skill to possess?
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, anybody here read resumes lately? Anybody here hiring, especially administration? That every single resume out there has two things in common. It's really interesting. There must be a resume book or class that they take. One of them is that they're strong multitaskers. Does anybody know what the other one is? They're all team players. We'll see about that. It's easy to say you're a team player. Okay, so Clifford, going back to Clifford Nass, Stanford University, what he did is he took about 260 something students and he divided them into two groups. He took the ones that are really great at multitasking and he put them in one group, and he took the ones that aren't so great and he put them in group number 2. And then he gave group number 1 and group number 2 a series of exercises to go through. What he discovered is that group number 1, the multitaskers, were lousy at everything. They failed every single exercise he put them through. And the ones that were not good multitaskers really excelled. So what does that tell us?
Something suffers when we do more than one thing at a time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So if you would go to page 50 in your one thing book, if you happen to have the book, every time we try to do one or more things at once, we're simply dividing up our focus and we're dumbing down all of the outcomes in the process. Here's the short list of how multitasking actually short circuits us. Number 1, there is just so much brain capability at any one time. Divide it up as much as you want, but you'll pay a price in time and effectiveness. Number 2, I'm going to give you some real life examples of some of these. The more time you spend switch to another task, the less likely you are to go back to the original one. Is this true for anybody? You know, you get distracted, you're in the middle of something. Let's just use lead generation since that was thrown out here. You're in the middle of making calls and all of a sudden somebody calls you or texts you that your closing is going to blow up and you need to jump on it right away. Is that a real thing? So you say, well, let me just stop lead generating now. I'm going to go deal with this fire, but I will come back to lead generating. What are the chances that you will go back to lead generating?
Slim to none.
Very minimal. Never. It's never going to happen. And that's on many, many tasks at once. This is how loose ends pile up. Does anybody have loose ends piling up? What is the physical sign of loose ends piling up?
Putting out fires all the time.
But how would I be able to walk into your office, Emily, as the MCA and tell that your loose ends have piled up? Which, by the way, happens.
We're the desk.
Yes. Now, I happen to be a stacker. Do you know what that means? This is how I clean my desk. Everything is stacked. What's the chance I'm going down to that bottom thing in that pile again by the end of the day?
0.
It's not happening. So multitasking, I'm sorry, I ruined your whole day here. Multitasking takes you off task, and that's how loose ends do pile up. Now, what's interesting about those loose ends, because when you finally do go back to them, could be 2 months later because your desk is out of control, do they even matter anymore?
No.
Yeah. Or could it have been an opportunity lost even?
Yes.
Number 3 on page 50, bounce between one activity and another, and you lose time as your brain reorientates to the new task. Those milliseconds add up. Researchers estimate we lose 28%, 30% of your day switching and reorientating. Let me give you a real life example of this. And Erin's on the, I talk about this all the time. Erin's never been here, so she, hopefully she can hear the story because it's actually true and it involves her. So we had an administrator once that was really good at what she did. She inputted our listings. And I had personally taken a listing and the seller called me like the day or two later and said, you know, we thought we would be on the, you know how they look on the internet the minute you're in the car, you left the living room and they're searching for their house on the internet. And so the photos had been done and they didn't see themselves on the internet. So they called me and I said, well, that's really strange. Let me go in and look into it. And I went into the administration office and I talked to the listing manager that we had on staff. And she said, well, I haven't gotten to that yet because, you know, it takes me a long time to enter a listing. And I said, well, how long does it take you to actually enter the listing with the photos and the showing instructions and everything you have to do from A to Z? And she said, oh, about 4 hours. Now, wait a minute, because I don't know if that's true or not, because I haven't physically put in a listing myself in older than you and that little Benjamin. Benjamin was born yesterday, I found out today. So before Benjamin was born, I still wasn't putting in my own listings. So how do I know if that's true or not? Because there is a lot to it now. I'm aware of that. You have to, I like my photos to be captioned, you know, with a cute little saying underneath. And I also am very particular about the fields in multiple listing, that they're accurate, that we didn't steal them from another agent, so on and so forth. So for all I know, maybe it is true. So I went into Erin, and Erin was in another office, my daughter who helped run the team, and I put the file in front of her. And I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to just close your door. I'm going to time you because I really need to know this answer. And I want you to don't do anything but put this listing in, get all the way through, captions, showing instructions, set up the file the way we like it, all of that other stuff, and tell me how long it takes. Do you know what the answer was? 45 minutes. Very good. 45. Yeah. Erin's like, yeah. So 45 minutes based on 4 hours. Now let's keep going on this example. Let's go to number 4, because this is exactly my point. Chronic multitaskers develop a distorted sense of how long it takes to do things. That my administrator did not know. But let's go back to her everyday life. So she starts to put the listing in. What happens to her? Phone rings, right? Phone rings, and now somebody wants to list their property. That's a priority in my world, so she better stop doing what she's doing and say, well, I'm so glad that you're calling the Jackie Ellis team. How did you find our name? And she starts a script and takes all the information down. And now she's going to go give it to the listing agent, make sure he's all set. They get the appointment, they order a listing presentation basket to go out, and then now all of a sudden she's back in her chair, ready to go back to that task. Do you see how she switched tasks and now she has to say what?
Where was I?
Now, where was I?
Where was I?
Right.
And reorient.
And that reorientation is, the research says that I'm going to tell you how much time. Number 5, multitaskers make more mistakes than non-multitaskers. And it was so true. Erin was always correcting this administrator's mistakes. Now, by the way, it wasn't her fault. We had her doing 10 million things. We just didn't know this strategy yet. They often make poorer decisions because they favor new information over old, and even if the older information is more valuable. that number 6, and this is the one I really want you to pay attention to. Multitaskers experience more life-reducing, happiness-squelching stress. 4 hours versus 45 minutes. Let's go right here. Multitasking, it costs you time, it costs you effectiveness, and loose ends pile up. Let's look at the very top diagram I'm showing you on the screen here. If you're doing your primary work and then you switch, and now you have to get reoriented, and then now you're distracted because you don't remember where you are, but now you're going to switch back and get reoriented again into your primary work. Look how long it took you based on, compared to below where you're just focusing and getting it done. Is lead generation like this?
Oh, yeah. Sure. Easy.
Yeah.
So
If
usually
you-
in lead generation, the distraction starts before you start the task, and then you never get to lead generation.
Well, we always allow ourselves to be distracted. For some reason, the top agents, including Gary Keller, will not allow it. And look at Gary Keller, what he built because he did not allow it. I mean, there are so many great stories about Gary on his time. One of them was Tony DeCello, who was the top MAPS coach and very well known throughout the coaching industry, had a 411 appointment with Gary, and which means they were going to go over his goals to see where he was. And the appointment was for 30 minutes. And so Tony showed up late because of a car delay on the Mopac Expressway. So he shows up 20 minutes late. Gary says, okay, great, and blah, blah, blah. In 10 minutes, that was it. Tony was ushered out the door. This is a very big weighted individual in our company, and Gary, it doesn't matter. Here's my calendar. You had 30 minutes. I'm sticking to it. You're out the door. Tony tells the story. I don't know if Gary will admit that. I'll also give you another Gary Keller story, which is very true. So for years before I joined the company, top agents could go and sit in his office and hear him lead generate. And so he didn't acknowledge you while he was there. He didn't explain what he was doing. He just was making calls, and you got to sit on the sofa and surrounded by amplifiers because he collects them. It's a really weird scene. And you would just be able to watch him. And back then, he was, what he would lead generate for is opening up regions. So he would call top mega agents like that were in the Ohio Valley and create relationships. But it was lead generation on same calls, creating relationships just like we do. Now, you would never be able to be invited on a Friday to watch Gary Keller lead generate. Why do you think that is?
He took Fridays off.
What's that?
He took Fridays off.
Yeah, he did. So you're right, Emily. He didn't take Fridays off of work, but that was a day that he didn't necessarily lead generate. He would more or less use that day to walk around and high five people, and he did some accountability with his leaders, but there was no lead generation, and he didn't really want everybody to know that. You only could go Monday through Thursday from 9 to 12 and sit there and watch him. But 9 to 12, that man did not stop. No matter what, that building would have to be on fire to get him to hang up that phone. All right, let's go to the other big lies real quick. And these aren't necessarily in you don't have a workbook, so don't worry about that, but they are in your book. The whole idea that we're going through the One Thing book is for you to find one subject that you find interesting enough to open that book later on and read. Does that make sense? Remember, I started out by saying Keller Williams agents are not reading this book. So maybe it's the multitasking section that you like, and that later on tonight you'll go home and say, hey, I'm going to read that section. Okay, who have I got on the screen here?
Michael Phelps.
Michael Phelps. What's he known for? What kind of swimming?
Olympic.
What kind of Olympic swimming? Is he a gold medal winner? Holds the records in gold medals, correct?
Gold medals ever.
Right. Disciplined life, would you say? Yeah. Actually, Michael Phelps is a very undisciplined man. In fact, when he was growing up, the teachers were constantly complaining, and he spent much of his elementary school years sitting in a corner facing the wall because he was so unfocused and disrupted the class so much. Probably had a learning disability that they didn't know of. Yeah, but they didn't know, so they were just constantly calling his mom. To prove that he's undisciplined, what happened after he won all the Olympic medals? Does anybody know the story? Well, he got out of control. We only know about the smoking weed thing, but that doesn't just happen overnight. It's always, he was at a party. By the way, it wasn't just smoking weed. He was partying.
Exactly.
Okay, so he got a little out of control because he's very undisciplined. The only thing about Michael Phelps that you have to know is that he decided to be disciplined in one area of his life. And where that discipline showed up is that he made a decision that he was going to practice swimming 7 days a week instead of the 6 that everybody else that he was competing with was doing. He showed up at the pool that seventh day, 2 years, 3 years before the Olympics. How do you think that worked out for him? That was it. That was the only said. He was very undisciplined in other areas even back then. It's just that he decided he was going to practice 7 days a week instead of 6, and he kept that discipline. And that worked out in a very big way for him. So to say that you want to live a disciplined life is probably not a possible thing. However, could you pick one area in your life that you do want to be disciplined in?
Sure.
And by the way, does that mean that you can't pick another area in the future? So now, by the way, he is back to having somewhat of a disciplined life. Does anybody know what his life looks like now?
He lives in a community that's, he's got a health and meditation and yoga focused, I don't know if it's a mansion or something like a compound. He was there for a while, and I'm sure he has his own home now.
He has a son.
Yep.
I think they're married now. I don't think they were married during the Olympics, but I think they're married now.
Yeah.
So he has a family. He's just a little more disciplined in that area because he's not so much swimming anymore. By the way, anybody a fan of the Olympics?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm probably the biggest fan of the Olympics that you'll ever meet. And I'm still mourning that they didn't have them this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael Phelps, you can't have a disciplined life in every area. Pick one area, and maybe we'll even help you do that in a few minutes, where you can decide I'm going to be disciplined here. There's a really great book out there called Baby Steps or something like that. And what it says is that in order to start to build up a discipline, you decide that every day, for instance, you pick one thing. And we had a whole chart here. Everybody in the office was doing it. Somebody said they were going to do 1 push-up every day for 30 days. Somebody else said they were going to run in place for 2 minutes every day for 30 days. I chose that I was going to write at least 1 sentence in a journal every day for 30 days. Now we know that 66 days, and we'll talk about that, is how you build up a habit, but that was before this material came out. And so what do you think happens if now you could decide to do 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 push-ups, but you had to do the 1 every day. What do you think happened after the 30 days? Yeah, do you think we stopped? Oh, we made it to the 30 days, I'm gonna stop.
It's your habit.
It starts to form a habit.
It became a habit.
Right,
That's what
and
you
we
did.
became
That's what you
disciplined
did.
in
That's what
those
you did.
areas. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, willpower is always on will call. That is also a lie. Can you have willpower whenever you want it? Now, there was a study of an Israeli parole board. I want that to sink in who we're studying. Okay, now these were prisoners that were coming up for parole. And they would, the parole board would see anywhere, I don't know, I don't remember the figure, 40 to 60 cases a day, something like that. And so what's interesting about the chart that you're looking at is that if the parolee came in front of the parole board in the morning, when they were fresh, they had a 60% chance of being granted parole. But as that morning went on and it came times towards their morning break, which they got hungry and thirsty and probably had to pee, something like that, how many of them were granted parole?
None.
0. Okay, now they've had their break, they come back, and they're about 55% chance that you would be granted. But then as the afternoon comes, it drops again. So they go have their late lunch, come back from lunch, again, you're about 50% now, maybe 55 again, but it drops heavy in the afternoon. In the morning, it went up and down and up and down. In the afternoon, it's just going down. How would you like to be the prisoner that comes across, it comes in front of the parole board here at the end of the day? Yeah. Right, but you didn't have a chance.
May I just go back to myself till tomorrow?
So what is this sharing with us? What it's sharing is that you don't have willpower whenever you want it. You do have it more when? In the morning. Now let's prove this in real life, shall we? What's your favorite dessert?
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake. Okay, if you're gonna have a dessert, it might as well be cheesecake, right? Why mess around? Are you more likely to have a piece of cheesecake at 8 a.m. in the morning or at 9 p.m. at night? Yeah. What do we eat in the morning? It's really interesting. What are you guys eating in the morning? Like spinach shakes?
Egg white.
Egg whites.
Fruit.
Yeah. And then we sometimes are packing a lunch, but then, somebody brings in Taco Bell. So you eat that instead. Your willpower starts to diminish a little. And then by the time you go, the pizza shows up and you're like off track. Now, if pizza had showed up at 8 in the morning, would you have done it? No. Can you resist donuts easier in the morning than pizza for lunch?
Yes.
Yeah. Willpower isn't yours to call whenever you want it.
Yeah.
You have to use it when it's there. So what we're trying to say is that you can't have a disciplined life and you can't do everything on that to-do list. Figure out what's that one success thing, be disciplined about it, and get it done in the morning, because that's when your willpower is its highest. Do you get where all these are coming from? I'm not going to lead generate now because I'll do this now. I'll put this fire out. I'm going to go to this closing. My favorite excuse for not lead generating is that you have a closing. Well, I have a closing I have to go to. Well, who set the closing for this time? You get that you're in charge of the transaction, right? We don't do closings in the morning if that's your disciplined time. Because you could say, well, I'll go do the closing and then I'll come back and I'll lead generate or I'll do my thing in the afternoon. What are the chances? It's not happening. It's not happening. Willpower is not always on call. That's a lie if you think that's going to work for you. Last one, fifth one, switch to my ballerina, is having this balanced life. Now, people think having a balanced life is a great goal. I'm going to balance myself. Let's just talk 2 areas, work and play, or work and family, work and home life. I want to have a balanced life where I'm working this amount of time and then I'm going home at this amount of time and I'm with my family. Well, by the way, is that a possible thing?
Yes.
Yeah. Could you live a nice average life doing that? Is there anything wrong with an average life?
No.
Okay, let's talk about what an average life is, okay? First of all, you would have an average, house, an average home. Any problem with that?
No.
You'd have an average car. What's an average car? What would you guys say?
Toyota Corolla silver.
Toyota Corolla silver.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the most common color of a Toyota Corolla.
Okay. So is there anything wrong with Is there anything wrong with driving around in a silver Toyota Corolla?
No.
Okay. You would have an average income.
Yeah.
Okay, so far so good.
Yeah.
Average wardrobe. Average children. No, average children, not average number of children. You're going to have average children. In fact, you're going to say to your average child, I know that you have a test tomorrow in science. I'm not expecting much. In fact, if you could bring home an average C, I'm going to be okay with that. Is that how we're going to talk to our children? No, what do we want from the children? Do we say to the children, listen, you're going to grow up one day, you're going to get an average job, you also will drive an average car, you're going to have more average kids, and that's the life that I want for you. Is that how we talk to them? But so then why was it okay that we have an average life? Is that really what you want? So would you want something more than the average? So do you know if you, and by the way, most people at KW seem to want more than the average. That's why we were somehow attracted to KW to begin with. We all have that in common. Would you agree that to have an above average success in any area, you are going to have to be in that area longer? Let's put it in real life perspective. I'm going to go work out and I'm going to become a body builder, what do they call competitor? Yeah. And so now I'm going to go every day to the gym. I'm hiring 3 or 4 trainers, 6 days a week, 6 hours a day. If I do that, will I see success in that area?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, what will maybe fall apart behind me? My business might, because I'm over here a little bit, right? So, but you do agree that while I'm at that gym 6 hours a day, 6 days a week, that something really magnificent's going to happen, right? Would you also agree that if I was to say to my family, listen, I'm going to really pour into my career over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so you won't see me as much. I'll be doing some open houses on the weekends, but I will make it up to you. Here's the reward. We're going to go to Disney World or something like that when I'm done. And I stick into this career and I do these open houses and I do my lead gen and I'm focused here. But I wasn't home exactly at 5 or 6. I kind of had appointments at night and then running out the door on Saturday. Would magic happen over here in that work life? If I took the children to Disney World and the family, and I was only with the family for 4 days, pouring into them, reading to them stories at night, doing all of that, would magic happen here?
Yes. Yeah.
So do you see how you've got to counterbalance? I'm over here working, and oh my gosh, I got to counterbalance. I got to go over here. You cannot have balance. You just counterbalance your life. If you look at the ballerina on the screen, you'll see that she is standing on her toes, supposedly. What's that called, by the way?
Point. She's on toes. She's
on point.
She's on point.
On point. Something like that. It's French, though, right? Sounds better when they say it. Okay. But if you look close, what does it really look like? Is her feet just perfect like that? Say no. She's counterbalancing constantly. She's not standing still on those toes. Same thing if you're driving a car. If somebody's a kid in the car, they think you're just doing this down the road, don't they? What are you really doing?
Making minor adjustments along the way.
It's counterbalancing. You can't have a magical life if you don't put magical time and effort into an area. That's only where the magic happens. You want to create magic, then pour into one area of your life. And yes, the other ones are going to get messy. Don't stay too long because then that's called what? You could risk burnout, but that's where the workaholics come from. They don't ever go home. Life passes them by. Next thing you know, your children are in college and you don't know them. The whole cats in the cradle thing happens. That's not what we're talking about. Small amounts of time, you pour in, you make success happen in that area, and then you counterbalance and fix whatever else. And it's not just work play. I just use those as an example. Here on the screen, you can see work life is in the middle. You're very even on the left. And then if you do work life in the extremes, it's in the middle. But counterbalancing on the far right looks like you're constantly adjusting. You're always jumping back and forth. Questions, comments, anybody on Zoom? Are we still all there on Zoom? Are they looking up or are they looking down? Do you see them or their names? I'm learning about Zoom.
Sure.
I'm learning how to judge.
Yeah.
Mostly about my behavior when I'm on. Okay, last lie. Yes.
So Kyle Israel told us that the book that you mentioned is called Tiny Habits.
Instead of baby steps.
So the Tiny Habits.
I don't know that that is the book, but that's probably a great book. Yeah. My book has the word baby in it.
Okay.
I actually have it on my shelf, but if anybody wants to know, don't make me find it if nobody really cares. Okay. All right. Last lie that could be holding us back from success. By the way, the lies are a really important part of the One Thing book. It actually takes up 30% of the entire book. That's why we spend a lot of time on it. The last one is having a big life. Big is bad. I don't want to have big goals because that's bad. I might not hit them. Obviously, you want to aim high. The only thing about setting big goals, big income goals, big business goals is that your actions, your activities have to match the bigness of the goal. I can't say I'm going to make $2.5 million this year in commissions and GCI and then come to work once a week and lead generate for an hour. You see what I mean? Could I make $2.5 million in GCI? The answer is yes, as long as my plan and my habits and my activities support that. So that is, big is not bad. Okay, how are you doing there? What are you doing there?
You have to admit, Justin got kicked.
Okay.
You think you should here?
Yeah, I think I'd be better.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, Larry. Thank you, Larry!
Yay! Round of applause. Thank you.
Wait, come back! I'm just kidding. JK.
JK.
All right, let's do this. Let's go back and let's actually write an action step. From everything you just learned, from all the lies, from the domino effect, let's just write down one action step that you're going to take, put into place right away from all of that. What time does this go to?
9 tonight.
Okay, I'm going to get a little philosophical here, but don't worry, those that don't like that, it's in and out very quickly. Okay, tell me what you wrote for an action plan. Somebody share, you got the chat box? Write in the chat box an action step that you're going to take, and Emily's going to read it out loud. Anybody in the room here? Yes, nice and loud.
Block schedule for lead generating.
Block your schedule for lead generating. Great. So I've seen many agents like you, because you know I've been around longer than Benjamin's been born, and come and go, and I've seen them lead generate just like you. The difference is the ones that stick with it, then or say, well, this isn't working and I'm moving on. So that's probably a perfect one for you because you stick with it and the world is yours. Okay. What else? Another action step.
I'm gonna update command.
You're gonna do an update command? Yeah. Okay, fab. Anybody, Em?
Nobody in the chat, yeah.
Nobody in the chat. Okay, one more second on the chat for you guys.
Jolie says stick to a to-do list. Karina says time block.
Okay. Oh, we even have David Parker. I love him. He might not be there though, so I just see a still picture. Okay. Let's move on. Somehow.
Here.
I'm gonna do all of the
David.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, great class. Can I offer a thought? Can I contribute something? So let me move my screen. So Brendan Burchard, who used to be the editor of Success Magazine, and he's a personal development speaker now and all. He did a seminar, panel discussion a few years ago on YouTube, and he had like 8 incredibly successful people: Barbara Corcoran, Eli Musk, others just like them. And he said, what is the one attribute or habit you have that you feel has contributed to your success? The one that empowered all the others. And all of them answered without consulting each other with the same answer. They said, we say no to 99 out of 100 things that come our way per day. We stay completely focused, on point at the task at hand.
Good level, David. So I love that you said that. That's coming up about some other examples of no. So hopefully you can remember some of them. And by the way, this is an area that I need to grow in. Believe me.
Well, the biggest killer of people staying on point is just turning this thing off during the 1 or 2 hours that you're supposed to be lead generating. Or putting it, if you're using this, putting it on Do Not Disturb.
Put your phone away while you're lead generating. By the way, is that easy or hard?
Hard.
Terribly hard. Have you ever tried to go 24 to 48 hours without it? I do that twice a year. By the way, it's not easy. It's not easy to get away, to put it down, and it's not even harder to pick it back up.
It's breaking a habit.
What's happening?
You can let Rick cruise in.
All right. Those that you, thank you, David Parker. Thank you so much. Don't go away. We need you. Page 104 in your One Thing book. 104, if you have the book. Second paragraph. Life is a question. Why focus on a question when we really crave an answer? It's simple. Answers come from questions, and the quality of any answer is directly determined by the quality of the question. You go down to the next paragraph. Voltaire once wrote, "Judge a man by his questions rather than his answers." That is so huge. And then towards the bottom of that paragraph, there's a sentence that says, "Research shows that asking questions improves learning and performance by as much as 150%. So on page 105 in the One Thing book, this is Gary Keller actually talking. And he said, "I first became aware of the power of questions as a young man. I read a poem that affected me profoundly, and I've carried it with me ever since." He carries this poem around. It's so important to him that he put it in the book. So I'm going to read it to you. It's called My Wage. And at the end of this, I want to hear what you think that this means to you. "I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is just employer, he gives you what you ask, but once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn, dismayed, that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid." I know, gives me goosebumps. What do you think it means?
Go for the big goal, and you could go for that target that you want, and you have a better chance of hitting it than not trying to go for it at all.
Okay, go for the target that you want. You have a better chance of hitting it than not going for it all. What else? Does it mean anything else to anybody else?
Ask and you shall receive.
Ask and you shall receive, right out of Matthew in the Bible. You want to just stay here? Or no? Is that a negative?
You kick Larry out, you're not kicking me out.
Okay.
Says don't.
Okay, what else does it mean, you guys?
You set whatever you set the wage for is basically comparing working for someone else versus working for yourself.
Yeah, life is going to give you what you ask for. So are you thinking big enough? You know, are you going home at night and counting and, oh my gosh, I just don't have, my bank account is so bad. I'm not moving forward, I can't get a listing? Or are you waking up in the morning saying, today is the day that life will give me a listing? Maybe 2, I'm going for 3. Do you see the difference? Life works for you, not the other way around. You are not a victim of life. You hire life. I just think, now look at Gary Keller gets exposed to this poem at a very young age. Look at what he's built. He's a multi-billionaire over and over and over. Because he demanded life work for him. Now, you can't just sit in a recliner all day and demand life works for you. That's not going to work.
No, it says it sets the wage.
Right.
So whatever your goal is, whatever your big dream is, okay, you must bear the task.
You must bear the task.
You must bear the task. So you can set up your dreams as big as this, but your habits have to support getting there.
Right. And do you know that the universe, God, whatever your belief is, will not give you more money than you can manage? I get inspired by my husband a little bit in this money management area. If you open his wallet, by the way, he can tell you exactly what's in there at all times. Can you guys do that? I happen to give a lot of it away, so then I go and there's none. You know what I mean? Like I'm a big tipper, and that's like, oh my gosh, I need money. He can tell you exactly what's in there, and the dollars are in order. Faced correctly, he's managing money so that he can receive more. Now, I would demonstrate my wallet for you guys. I'm happy it's not up here because it's like money rolled in there and stuck in there, and I don't really know what's in there. And now I'm listening to myself, I need to improve that because life will only give you what you can manage. He knows what's in our bank accounts. Do you know that I'm not really given any money in my world? They don't let me have any. Like I don't see it. I have to ask for it. It's
You're
really
not to be trusted.
It's not that. I don't know. They just bypass me. All right. Go to page in your book 106. And this is the uncommon life that we mentioned before. It seems we must envision our own journeys, make our own maps, and create our own compasses. To get the answers we seek, we have to invent the right questions, and we're left to devise on our own. So how do you do this? How do you ask the right questions so that you can get the right answers? Like a question could be, what is that first domino for me? Somebody tell me. But rather than telling you, are you asking yourself the right questions? How do you come up with an uncommon question that takes you to uncommon answers? You ask yourself this following question. It's called the focusing question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The focusing question is so deceptively simple that its power is easily dismissed by anyone who doesn't closely examine it. But that would be a mistake. This is the question that's affecting business owners across the world, all business owners. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? Now let's take apart that question for just a sec. Why I keep losing my mouse for some reason. That didn't happen to Larry. Oh, because I think somebody comes up here and does something when I'm not looking. So here's the question. What's the one thing I can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or necessary? Gary takes it apart in this page and says part one is what's the one thing I can do? This sparks action. What's the one thing I can do? It's an action-focused statement. And then part two, such that by doing it, this tells you that there's a criteria that you have to meet. It's the bridge between just doing something and doing something for a specific purpose. And the last part, everything else will be easier or unnecessary. This part is the ultimate leverage test. It tells you when you found that first domino. Page 107. In the one thing book. Last paragraph down if you have your highlighter. Extraordinary results are rarely happenstance. They come from the choices we make and the actions we take. The focusing question always aims you at the absolute best of both by forcing you to do what is essential to success. You have to make a decision, but not just any decision. It drives you to make the best decision. It ignores what is doable and drills down to what is necessary and to what matters. This will lead you to the first domino. We're going to finish this part up by going to page 113 if you have your book. And the third paragraph on that page, grab your highlighter. The focusing question is the foundational habit I use, this is Gary talking, to achieve extraordinary results and lead a big life. I use it for some things and not for all. I apply it to the important areas of my life, which is spiritual life, physical health, personal life, key relationships, job, business, and financial life. And I address them in that order. Okay, here's what I want you to do, everybody. Grab a piece of paper. And I want you to make 7 circles like this. 7 circles all in a circle. Dan and Mary and the leaders in our office, this is a download page from Keller Inc. I actually have them. And this is a great tool to take anybody through that you are working with. You know, when we do a needs analysis with people, we simply jump right into their business when there could be hurting in other areas of life. And this will actually help flush that out. Okay. 7 circles, and then in the top circle, you're going to write the word, the spiritual life, whatever that means to you. Second one down on the right, physical health. Coming on down, personal life. How is your personal life? Key relationships. I assume you know who your key relationships are. That's not just family. Could be friends, aunts, sisters. For my business, for my job is next to key relationships. Going up on the other left-hand side now we have business and we have finances. These are the 7 areas that Gary Keller asks this focusing question. What's the one thing I can do in this area that such by doing it, everything else will be easier or even unnecessary? But let's just figure out where we are in these 7 areas. So we're going to rate yourself in each one of these on a scale. I'm going to leave this on the screen. From a scale of 1 to 10, which means 1, you are just blowing it in that area, and 10. Now, before you start rating, I want to talk to you because I know what you're going to start writing. 10 means you're just excelling beyond belief. Now, first thing I want you to know is I want you to be honest with yourself. So don't overinflate it. Oh my gosh, I'm rocking it here. But also don't be hard on yourself if it's not true. You know, are you really a 1 in that area? Try to give yourself a true number from 1 to 10 in each one of those areas. Is what I'm asking, does that make sense? Everybody clear what I'm asking? Mm-hmm. Start at the top and go all the way around.
Are we putting the rating in the bubble?
You could, yes, to the right, to the side of the bubble, in the bubble, whatever you're comfortable with, it's just for you. Nobody else will ever see it. Great question. I usually get asked at this point, what's the difference between my job and my business? Anybody here want to ask that? So a lot of us have a job. We could be a buyer's agent running a buyer department. We could be, our job is to get listings, to get business and to write contracts. But our business is, are we making money at that? Are we spending too much? Do we have a plan to make solid money this year? Finances could involve more. You know, are you building wealth? What is your net worth? How you guys doing? Shake your head yes on Zoom if you've got your 7 circles done. Yes, Jolie, I see. How you doing, Shelby?
Good.
I was just seeing if you were there. All right. Now, if you've got your numbers from 1 to 10, I want you to go back. By the way, isn't this interesting that spiritual's on top? I want to tell you a quick story about Gary and him writing, being the author of a book, of his books. When Gary and Jay and Dave Jenks wrote the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, they sent it out to publishers and nobody would publish it. And he knew that that would be a disruptive tool to the real estate industry, that it would no longer be about the broker owning the agents, that agents would be empowered to treat this like a business, not just a career. And so he wanted that book out, so he actually self-published it. It actually looks different, the very first edition, and it is published by Relic Inc., which is Keller backwards. And you can see on the second page where it says copyright that it's published by Relic Inc. You have one of those, right?
Your copy looks good.
Yeah, don't let that out of your hands. People will fight you for that book. I keep mine in my safety deposit box. Well, obviously it was a big hit. So McGraw-Hill came along as the publisher and published that book and made a ton of money and said that, Gary, we will publish anything else you write. He wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, the Blue Book, which, by the way, is one of the very best books that he wrote. People argue with me, but it is really all about money and passive income. Definitely should read that. And McGraw-Hill published that, no problem. And then he wrote a couple others, and then boom, The One Thing came out. When he gave this book to the publishers, they looked through the whole book and they said, we really love this book, but we want you to change one thing because we see that it's a business book. We don't want spiritual on the top of this particular circle. And so he said, okay. Gary took the drafts back, said, no, oh, by the way, I actually have a draft copy of this book if anybody ever wants to see it. It's really cool. And so he took it back and then took it back to his research department and said, okay, we've got to redo this. And they messed with it for 3 weeks and they said, we just can't. We can't take it from the top. Spiritual is where it all starts. So whatever that means to you, get in line with who you feel created you, and make sure that you are paying attention to that little circle. And it does remain on the top. Obviously the publishers gave in, and there it is. So next to the spiritual circle, write one thing that you could do that would make everything else easier or unnecessary to get your score up in that circle. And then you're going to go around and do that same thing, one action step that can get your score up in each of these circles. And at the end, I would love an example of 2, and I don't really care whatever circle you say.
It's funny how God, family, business. And if you look at it, God, over here on the right, could be relative to family, right? Your physical health is relative to how long you're going to be around for your family. Your personal life is all about your family, and your key relationship should be rooted there, right?
Yep.
And then your business comes up around to the left of where your job is, where your business is, where your finances are. You know, so it's just the circle.
It's all connected. That's why it's a circle and not a straight line. Good analysis. Good observation. This is also referred to as the wheel. So if you have one of these out of whack and you try to roll it, it won't roll. But remember, you can't have a balanced life in all these areas. I'm going to be perfectly balanced in all 7 circles. Well, good luck with that.
Jackie, somebody is asking, was your number 6 big as bad? It was from your.
Yes. Number 6 lie, big as bad. Yeah. Okay, all the way around the whole wheel. Where are you with your business? Where are you with getting your job done? Where are you with your finances? No judgment. Nobody sees this. We just want you to be aware of what you're rating. To me, when I teach the whole full day course on this, this is the most impactful exercise of the day. All right, now I want you to look at the 7 circles and the 7 things that you wrote down, the action steps. What do you think I'm going to ask you to do?
Figure out our 20%.
Figure out the one. What's the one thing that if you did that one would almost help the other circles or bring them up automatically, making steps almost unnecessary? And Em, get ready for the chat box because hopefully I can get some participants going here.
Yes. Okay.
When this book first came out, there was some criticism that came out. I don't want to say who criticized Brad Inman. Saying that, oh, well, Gary Keller is really whacked out if he thinks it's only, if it's only one thing and everything else, falls in place. That's not what this book says. It says, it's only one thing at a time. That doesn't mean that you're not going to pay attention to these other circles. We're going to counterbalance. But what's the one right now that if you did that action step would make everything else easier or maybe unnecessary? The answer is always surprising. What a great time of year to be doing this exercise too, right? All right, everybody on Zoom from our Boca offices and our Boynton Beach office and any guests that we have, we would love for you to, I don't know if I'm muting you or you've muted yourself, so maybe go into the chat box and let's hear the circle that you chose and your action step. What is the one thing, the circle that you chose that could make the biggest difference and your action step to get that score to rise up? Anybody? Yes, Miss Betty.
So when you were talking about the circles and the order that they're in and spirituals at the top, I noticed that was my lowest number. So I put meditate daily for just 15 minutes. And I feel like if I did that, because when you go out in the world, you have to go out with armor, right? You have to go ready. And so I feel like if I did that, then the rest would.
So for Betty, in case you didn't hear that, she feels that her spiritual circle needs to be the worked on the most. And if she brought that score up, it would make everything else easier. And how she's going to do that is to meditate 15 minutes every day. Do you know how to do that?
No, but I will learn.
Then that's an action step. You're going to learn how to do that. Great. There's classes even and stuff. There's apps now.
There's YouTube.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, good. Fabulous, Betty. Amazing. Yes, Emily.
I did this with my coach, and physical health was mine. And so that's why I started my 66-day challenge, because I was neglecting myself and serving others.
Okay, so what's your action step?
Starting that 66-day challenge and keeping to it. And I've
For 60, what are you doing for 66?
30 minutes, a minimum of 30 minutes of exercise of some sort.
A day.
A day.
Now, if you do a minimum of 30 minutes of exercise every day and you stick to it, will you feel that your score in that category will go up?
Yes.
And if that score, when that score goes up, will you feel that some of the other ones will automatically go up?
Yes.
Is that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Are my participants on Zoom checked out?
No, I actually have a really good one.
Yay!
So I was looking around my circle and I put write a thank you card to someone every day. And I think that would help with key relationships. I think it would also help with mental health because you're expressing gratitude and also spiritual life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it would also be good for business
as
well. Because you're enriching those relationships and investing in people that have invested in you.
And if your business is better, will your finances be better?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Nice job, Shelby. Did you want to make me the first person you write a note to? Is that what you said?
Absolutely.
I was thinking that. Well, that was.
I was gonna multitask and write it right now, but I know you wouldn't like that.
Okay, anybody else?
So I'll out myself here because I have gotten into a bad habit of arriving at the office about 10 minutes after 9 consistently every day, regardless of my efforts, either to not do it or to do it intentionally. It just happens. Like 12 minutes after 9 is when I get here. And I know that's not helping me. So I just think if I just commit to get here 20 minutes beforehand, that my day, each day is going to be better. And it's not even hard.
So now, does that mean, first of all, what circle would that be in the business? Maybe
That was for my job. Yeah.
So if you do that, what would it really take to do that? What's the discipline here?
That, just getting a little bit more organized the night before,
Getting up early.
I get up early and manage to, goad myself into thinking that I've got more time than I do. Or I sit around and, meditate for a minute and not meditate, I didn't mean that in a bad way. I just kind of sit and look out the window in my car.
That meditation's gonna make you late.
No. I sit around,
Maybe you and Clay can meditate at 9 a.m.
Right.
Yeah, 8:45, be there, be square. I've got into a habit of just, resting a little bit and playing with the puppy too long and just need to be organized so that I'm not taking extra time to do something I don't need to, I could do the night before.
I think that's a very real thing, and I love your vulnerability. If you were to take and I've asked this question many times, so hopefully somebody on the Zoom listening knows the answer, but if you were to take the top SEO, the top CEOs of Forbes 200 companies and line them all up, let's say from this wall to this wall, and we were to ask them a series of questions as to why they think they're so successful, they'd have many answers. Like David Parker mentioned that they say no more than they say yes, which we're going to talk about. But there was 3 things also they all had in common. One of them is that if they were asked what their biggest challenge is with their jobs and their roles, you know, they all said the same thing. Do you know what their biggest challenge is?
Turning it off.
Turning it off? No? No? Their biggest challenge is mindset, and they work on it every day. So these are the top most successful people in the world, and you would think mindset would be so automatic to them, but it's not. It's something that they work on every day. They wake up every day putting something good in their head so good will come out. Like they may say affirmations, they may watch a TED's talk. In our case, we could watch KW Connect video every morning, and that will help us with our mindset. We could read a devotional in a Bible. You could meditate. You've got to do something to get that mind right, or it slips away from you. It starts going negative. We are created to go negative more than positive. So you have to physically move that with effort to a positive place. You can thank Eve for finding that apple for that. She was so hungry that day. So mindset is their biggest challenge. So the second thing that all of these CEOs and top achievers would have in common is, and you won't like this one, but every single one of them rise early. Rise early. And what do you think early means? 5:30, and you know, my friend Matt Weaver is like 4:30 a.m. Like, that's just crazy.
What time do they go to sleep?
Well, that's just it. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing I've learned as I've matured and taken on more roles and really had bigger goals. It's not when you set your alarm in the morning.
Right.
It's what?
It's when you go to sleep.
It's when you're in that bed at night. That's where the discipline is.
Yes.
Now, as I got older, I learned to really love that bed, so it's not a struggle anymore. Like, I could be in it right now and be happier than anything. But so, you know, I don't have to force myself in there anymore. I enjoy it. But you know, when you're a certain part of your life, you don't want to go to bed so early. So, raise your hand on Zoom and in person if you feel you are a morning person. Okay. What if you raise your hand if you're a night person? Okay. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. That's just patterns you've gotten into. So it's a myth, the morning person, the night owl, all of that is a myth. It's
if you have a baby or get a puppy, you'll wake up at 5.
Well, if you have a baby or get a puppy, you're not really sleeping that much at all. Yeah. That's why I only did it one time, because I really like sleep. So that wasn't happening again. Okay, any questions on this? Okay, anybody else want to share what circle they chose to increase and what the action step was?
What was number 3? I missed that. You said work on mindset, rise early, 5 a.m.
Oh, number 3. Thank you. The third thing that the CEOs of these top companies had in common is that they were willing to do things even though they didn't want to do. So picture the person working out. They don't always want to go work out, but they do it. So that's just one example. Picture picking up the phone and calling somebody down the street of a house you just listed. Probably don't want to do it, but these people would do it anyway. They do things even though they don't want to do it.
You always feel better when you do it after.
You know, the biggest, if you're ever in a funk in life, in your business, the quickest way to get out of it is to get into action and call somebody, write some notes, call your database. Within 2 hours, you're out of that funk. Mm-hmm. It's simple, it's just not easy. Thank you for that, Emily.
You're welcome.
Anybody else want to share a circle?
Mary actually wrote in the chat box, so true, that she consulted a top agent today and the challenge was mindset. So
yeah. All right. Very good. We're going to move on. We're not taking a break, I don't think. Okay, this is a really cool part. You guys ready for this next part?
Yeah.
Woo. So there's a formula for success. And the formula, once I share this with you, you will even recognize it in your coworkers that you've seen in the office. So the formula is that purpose leads to priority, leads to productivity. So what do we mean by this? Well, let's look over at this very first iceberg here on the left. You see that there are two things underwater, purpose and priority. Now that means that you cannot see someone that you work with down the hall. You cannot see their productivity. Their purpose or the priority. That's down under the water. You don't actually get to see that. But can you see somebody in production? Is that something you can physically see?
Yes.
What's very interesting with the iceberg, if you look once again what's below the water, what is the foundation of it? What's holding the whole thing up?
Big why.
Purpose, your big why. Why are you doing this? Why are you getting out of bed in the morning? What would your family say if I asked them, why are you doing this? You are just coming up here a lot.
Somebody's in the group, sorry.
And then only after purpose comes priority. So now I know, okay, because I have this drive, this thing, I now know what my priority is. You can't see that, but you will see because of the purpose and the priority, you will see me in production. Now look at the far right iceberg. What's at the very top? Can you see profit? You really can. You can see when somebody's making money.
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
walk differently.
Yeah, did you see Benjamin bought a few of us lunch today?
Yes.
Yeah, because he's making really good money, so he treated us to a lunch. It was orange.
I got to miss.
It was orange. That's all I can tell you about it. Okay. All right. So how do you discover what your priority is or what your purpose is? You know, Gary Keller says always start with your big why. By the way, there's a great TED Talk by Simon Sinek on TED Talk that really tells you about your big why. He also wrote a book that says start with the why. But I want you to write down some questions that you can ask yourself to start figuring out what your purpose is. I just came up with a few questions. You ready to write them? Number one, if I had all the time, money, and love, how would I spend my time? If I had all the time, money, and love, how would I spend my time? Something just pop into anybody's mind?
Well, I spend it with my family.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'd spend it doing what I'm doing right now. Very clear about that. Yeah. Okay, everybody got that one? Number two, when I'm wildly successful in real estate, what do I get? When I'm wildly successful in real estate, what do I get? And what does my family get? Now, I want to caution you here because it's seldom money. I know everybody went right to money. It seldom is the money. It might be what the money can do. Here's the one that drives me. This is the question that drives me. Number three. What does your community get when you're wildly successful? Margaritas for everybody.
Puppies for everybody.
Oh, I got one of those.
And if you want to think a little bit bigger, question number four, what does the world get? So Gary Keller would tell you, if we were to ask him his definition of purpose, like how do we figure out our purpose, he would say, it's the one thing you want your life to be about more than anything else, more than any other. Now, let's try to figure this out really quick. And we may or may not come to the final answer for you, which is fine. But let's just write down very quickly, without overthinking it. Everybody gets something to write with. And write down 3 things that you're passionate about. 3 things. And 3 things that, you guys got that? Let me not rush you. I'm a rusher. After you've got your 3 things that you're passionate about, write 3 things that you love to do. Now you should have 3 things that you're passionate about and 3 things that you love to do. I want you to draft a purpose statement. Now, you don't have to write the perfect purpose statement. In fact, it might not even be your purpose. It's just, you got to pick a path and start down it. It never ends up where you think it's going to end. I'm going to give you a very quick example. Did Erin bail on me? She's still here? So Erin, one day, my daughter, who is 28, I think, was driving down the road and looked out of her car and saw a homeless man just standing there with a cardboard sign. You've seen them. And the next day she sees him again. I might be paraphrasing this whole story, but eventually she rolls down her window because he's waving at her. He sees her every day going to work. And she says, hey, how you doing? What's your name? And they start a conversation. And one day she said, well, what do you need? And he said, shoes. And she said, what size are you? And he said, 9, 9.5. And next thing I know, she's robbing my husband's closet of shoes. And then she said, now what do you need? And he said, sandwiches, we're hungry. So the next thing on Christmas Day, we're all making Tom and Erin and I are making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for everybody. And she takes them down there. And she creates a relationship with this guy who turns out one day tells her, every morning they roll the window down, this is all it's done. She hands him some food or whatever, that he's addicted to heroin and he would like some help. So she finds him help. And by the way, today this gentleman is off the streets and clean because of rolling the window down. Now you're going to see where the story is going. So she becomes a little bit, wants to know more about the homeless. So she goes to a thing at a church and they tell her about the burrito project. Is she on here?
She is.
Okay, so she's probably saying, you got that part wrong. She finds out about the burrito project, which is a charity that every Saturday morning they all meet at this Chinese church very early in the morning, and they roll burritos and they take them over to Lake Worth at a park, and the homeless show up and they give them the burritos. And she becomes very well known among the homeless community, and she even starts teaching Tom and I A little bit more about the homeless. Like we give them snack packs when we see them outside, when they're, water and some granola bars and stuff like that. So she taught us to carry snack packs. And she becomes very well known. If you walk down downtown Lake Worth, she'll say, hey Doc, one of them thinks they're a doctor, so they all call Doc. Hey Doc, how you doing today? Good, Erin, very good, how you doing? So she becomes very, very intertwined with the homeless community. And because of it, somebody says, have you ever heard of the Sanctuary Project? She says, no, tell me about that. So the Sanctuary Project meets on Sunday. So she does the burrito thing on Saturday, and the Sanctuary meets out here on Boynton Military. And what they do is they bus in homeless. It's a much bigger operation. And they feed them a very hot meal for breakfast in the morning. And then they go to these different trailers, which they are called closets, not trailers, but all they are semi-trucks. One of them has women's clothes and makeup and everything they need. The other one has men's. And they pick out new outfits, whatever they need, makeup or shampoos or whatever. And then they go to the shower trailer. It's their only shower of the week. And Erin ends up running the women's closet. She's there every Sunday morning and becomes very, my daughter's very small, but she becomes large and in charge of all of the women that show up because, sometimes they try to be a little greedy or they fight over a blouse or whatever. And she's in charge. What do you want? And then I would donate all these little shampoos and stuff. And she would tell me that she would have to sell them because like one of them said, well, I like the good stuff from last time. And she'd say, well, this is really wonderful. Have you smelled this one? So she's selling the stuff in her closet that she's giving away every Saturday morning at the Burrito Project, every Sunday at the Sanctuary. For a very long time, this becomes her life. And then somebody says, have you heard of the charity of the project that you can go and help mothers that are just given birth, that are trying to become clean from drugs, and you can hold their babies because they're very overwhelmed in life. And as you hold their babies, they're vacuuming and doing their laundry and cooking their dinner and putting out resumes. Would you be interested in doing that? And she said, I would love to do that once or twice a week at night. So off she goes to start holding the babies. And one of these little babies is super cute, and she has a really weird feeling and a connection with the baby and the baby's mother, so much so that she wants to help the baby's mother find a job. So she gets more involved and starts helping her drive around and find jobs and put resumes. And as the mother's applying for jobs or in the interviews, Erin's got the little baby and brings the baby home sometimes because she finally gets a job. And next thing you know, unfortunately, the mother relapses and goes back to drugs, and they take the baby away. Erin hears about this. We were actually at family reunion or something, is that right? Mm-hmm. And so hears about this, rushes to go to court and says, I'll take the baby, I know her. And now this is little Maddie, who just turned 2 years old, that Erin is trying to adopt. Now, where am I going with this? She rolled her window down to say, hey, how can I help you? And ended up with a baby that she's raising. So she didn't know her purpose in life was that she would raise and provide an amazing grandparent for this lovely child. She didn't know that. She just asked him, what do you need? So what my point is, you don't need to figure out your purpose today. Just figure something out. Start down the path. It will change. And it will not be anything like what you started. But if you don't start your purpose, then nothing ever comes. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, now that I told you that very long story, I want you to compose a purpose statement. It should start with, my purpose in life is, and write a couple sentences. Don't overthink it.
Roll window down.
Roll window down, baby.
Karen,
what's Erin saying?
Karen Sklower.
Yeah,
says,
Sklower, yeah.
Such an awesome story.
Mm-hmm.
And Erin was glowing as you were talking. So
Oh,
teary-eyed.
yeah, it's very true, every bit of it. I really love one of them.
I got that. Look at her face. Say something. Erin, would you like to comment on that?
Which one she loves?
Yeah. Take a guess.
Maddie. She's a terrible two-face, so I think right now I'm getting the favorites right now. Tom, though, for sure, Maddie, 100%.
Terrible twos are a limiting belief. I don't believe in them.
Okay, she's coming to your
Terrible
house
28,
tonight.
terrible 29, I'm all over that one.
Terrible
28.
We're having what we're calling the FU4s.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
what?
Yeah, with Claire.
Oh, what is that? That
Oh.
doesn't mean what I think.
She
it
learned
means.
that word? Oh, she's learned a lot of bad words.
Oh.
Really?
She knows how to use them to hurt feelings.
Can you record for one day, like please?
That is
We're
not good. Do not
It's
laugh at
unfortunate
that. That is not
little
good.
kids cussing is hilarious.
Yeah, exactly. She's
Because
using
she
it
said she
now.
used it the wrong way, you said, right?
Oh, no, she uses it
She
the
uses it
right
the right way.
She uses it at the right time.
There's a Modern Family episode that does that. The little girl does it at the wedding, at a wedding. All right, what's your purpose? Look back up at what you're passionate about and what you love to do. Yeah,
You okay in here? You been surviving
I
with that?
feel the loss, but yeah.
I understand. I'm sorry.
Can you go admit Melissa?
I can do it. How do I do it? I don't see what
Take your
You
mouse
have to
over
look
to
at the screen
to
over your
TV.
right shoulder.
You gotta look over to the TV.
What do you mean?
Look at the TV.
Look behind you.
Oh,
See the-
Yes,
yeah.
really?
Swipe, take your mouse over to the TV. There you go.
You can drag that over to your,
There you go. And then bring it
that's why
back.
my mouse gets messed up.
Yeah, you gotta bring it back to the screen that you're in.
drag that
And then
over.
I can never find it. Okay. All right, I got it. Just tell me, just do a little.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, Emily. Thank you.
You are, Emily. And I apologize. I had some loose ends to catch up on.
I'm thinking you could really learn a little from this, but you know, go do your thing. Do your thing. All right. Anybody care to share of their very first purpose statement? It's okay if you don't. It's okay if you do. $100 for those that do. 1, 2, 3, gone. Okay.
Purpose in life is.
Page 159. 159. Oh, no.
I started speaking before you said it.
Yeah, I know.
Offer presented.
Yeah. You had to be on time there. Okay, 159. We're going to talk about time blocking. So by now, if we were in the whole 3/4 of a day class on this, you would have identified your priority, your purpose, and your one thing because of doing the spiritual circles, or doing the 7 circles. And so we obviously need to time block for whatever what your purpose is, what your priority is, and how are we going to get that circle up. So time blocking is a word that we throw out a lot at KW, and I'm not sure we actually understand what it means. So I've decided to not cut that part out of today, and I want to dive into what is time blocking. So if you have a one-thing book, once again, we're on page 159. We're going to learn how to time block, and then we're going to learn that time. Hey, mute yourself. We're going to mute.
Mommy don't have a race car.
We're going to mute the race car. Okay, listen to what Gary Keller says, and I've actually heard him say this in person, so it's interesting that it made it in the book. I often say that I come from a long line of lethargic people. This is usually good for a laugh, but it's also true. It seems at times that my genes just might have more in common with the tortoise than the hare. On the other hand, some of the people I work with are so blessed with energy, they actually vibrate. If you want to know who that is, it'd be Mo Anderson and Diana Kokoska when he wrote this book. Amazingly, they're able to work long hours over extended periods and never wear down. Is anybody here like that? I believe Dan DeMott is one of these people. You, Emily, one of these people? And you guys, anybody else listening? You could just work and work and you're not wearing down? Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, are you tired at 4 in the afternoon? Yeah. When I try to follow suit in less than a week, my body simply falls apart. I've discovered that no matter how hard I try, I can't use more time as a main means of doing more. So it's not just it's just not physically possible for me. So given my constraints, I've had to find a way to be highly productive in the hours that I can put in. I'm one of these people too. People may have noticed I don't have that long battery. I'm up at 5:30 in the morning, and at 4:30 in the afternoon. You probably don't want to have a meeting with me. You definitely don't want to have any sort of a conversation that you think I'm actually listening to, because I look like I'm listening, but I'm not. But that's not everyone. There are, a few people that are like that, and I happen to be one. So time blocking is my calendar becomes super important to me. So most people think there's enough time to be successful, but most people think there's never enough time to be successful, but there is when you block it. Time blocking is a very results-oriented way of viewing and using time. It's a way of making sure that what has to get done gets done. Alexander Graham Bell said, "Concentrate all your thoughts upon the work at hand. The sun's rays do not burn until brought to focus." Time blocking harnesses your energy. Okay, so if you want to learn time blocking, in order to achieve extraordinary results and experience greatness, time block these 3 things in the following order. What's the first thing that's on the screen? Time block your time off. Does that make sense to anybody? Sure. So when would you time block your 2021 vacations?
Now.
When would you actually book them?
Now, if you could.
Would you buy insurance now? Just saying as a side note.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But you get what I mean? So you're going to say, okay, next year, 2021, I'm going to take a total of whatever it is, 3 weeks off. And you're going to go into your calendar and say, I'm blocking this time, and this time off, whether they're 1 week at a time or whatever. And by the way, it doesn't have to be long weeks. It can be a series of 4-day weekends, whatever. You block that first. Now, why do most people not block that time off first?
They feel it's not as important as the work stuff that they have to plan.
I don't know. I think real estate agents in general don't feel that way. They would rather have time off than work. I'm not sure that's exactly right. Probably some people that feel time off isn't as important. I know one of them, Mary Kenyon. What else?
Maybe they think that your finances are not gonna be in order.
There you go. Well, why would I block a vacation when I don't know if I can afford where to go to? That's awesome. Why do most people, why do the mega agents block their time off? Because they know that if they've got that time, they're gonna work hard to get that money. By the way, top achievers don't work to get to a vacation. They're actually have the mindset that they are working between vacations. Does that make any sense to you guys?
Sure.
Yeah, the vacations are what's important, and then I'm going to work between them to make it happen. That's a better mindset, and it's been the way I think for years. Like right now, I'm thinking of my vacation, not really of you guys. Are you okay with that? Number 2, time block your one thing. What is most of our, in this room, on this Zoom, what's our one thing gonna be? Yeah, I mean, finding business. You can call it lead generation, you can call it whatever. We've got to get out there and find business. So that's our one thing. So we're gonna time block that. Now, I want to give you some hints because the MREA book shares with you that you should time block how many hours a day for lead generation? 3. But if you've never time blocked or never lead generated for 3 hours, what are the chances you're going to come out of the gate and do it 5 days a week for 3 hours a day?
0.
Yeah. So you need to start, remember the baby steps conversation, maybe it's an hour a day and build on it. Maybe it's 2 hours a day. And by the way, the whole time you are not pounding the phones. You might be pounding the phones for a little 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then it's follow-up. Follow-up is part of lead generating. But you're going to time block that. How are you doing it 4 days a week? Fridays you're not doing it? Sometimes Monday you might want to do only an hour from 9 to 10 because you have some things happening over the weekend. I don't know. You got to come up with get some guidance with the leader and come up with your thing and block it and protect it, which I'm going to share with you how. And then time block your planning time. What does that mean? There becomes a rhythm. This time of year, you should be taking a day off, taking some courses. There was a great one yesterday taught by some amazing instructors on business planning. Everybody should have been on that, because this is the time of year that you plan for your business next year. You should go check into a hotel and not come out till you have a full plan for 2021. It might take you 2 days. And then every month you stop and you say, okay, where am I this month? How do I need to adjust it? And then every Friday you look at your 411, which is a productivity tool, and you say, okay, here's the action I did this week. This is the results it got. I better step it up next week because it didn't do what I thought it would do, or whatever the results are. So every Friday afternoon, you stop and you look at your 411. Once a month, you take a half a day off to look at your whole plan. And once a year, you take 1 or 2 days. Any questions on time blocking? There must be, because I went through that so fast. My own head was spinning. Any questions on that, or should I move on, you guys? Also, let me just say something else. Here's what it looks like for time blocking. You got your vacation, you got your one thing in the morning. If you really time block properly, if I look at, by the way, I can look at somebody's calendar and tell you how much money they're making. Calendar will tell you everything. If I were to time block my year next year, I would put actual listing appointments in at, say, 3 o'clock every day. I'd block the time. What's that telling the universe?
I'm going to be on a listing appointment every day at 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Yep, maybe 1 at 3 and 1 at 5. Block it off. Now, can you time block your whole day? You can't. It's unrealistic. Again, you don't want to be time blocked the whole day. You want to leave some time to put out those fires. You know, you might want to lead generate from 9 to 12, lunch from 12 to 12:30, and from 1 to 3, you're prepping any presentations you're working on, you're returning calls. 3 to 4, you're on a presentation. 4 to 5, back to the office to wrap up. Home by 5:30, unless you have a night appointment. It's very doable in 40 hours, 50 hours a week, and you can make a lot of money if you stick to this. Making sense? Now, once you time block, can you get Larry for me? Hold on, Andres, I'm getting Larry on the phone. Once you time block for your time, the universe is going to come and steal your time. They are going to try to take you off your game. Now, I'm the first one to tell you this. The world does not care about your priorities. The universe could care less what your calendar says. In fact, it thinks its job is to knock you off of it. And the only successful people out there are the ones that fight the universe and resist. That's Andres the mover. Okay. First one is you want to protect your time block. So now I've got this time block. I know I don't have willpower all day, so I'm going to block the morning to do my one thing. Okay? First thing you're going to need to do is to build a bunker. Does that make sense?
Yes.
What do you think we mean by bunker?
Protect your time.
Nothing else can get into.
I'm talking a physical bunker.
Have a place where you can do your work and not be distracted.
Right. Now, can you build a bunker in the middle of the research area? You can. You can. You just, like some people, it's funny, they put the crime tape around them. You know, I've seen the divider screens. You know, we've done that on our team. That's where I've seen it actually. It actually works. We time block our administration too, by the way. Let's go back to the story about the administrator that took 4.5 hours. Now we say, listen, I'm going to be putting in a listing. I need to be protected for the next hour. So we put the divider up, which tells the salespeople they can't approach her, and the other administrator is in charge of answering the phone and taking messages. So we protect each other now. We've learned. So whatever it is, you can do it, but you've got to figure out where it is. Your bunker is back by the roof. Nobody else is going to go back there now. You own it. Congrats for that. Until you don't show up, then coach will assign it very quickly to somebody else. You better get there and build your bunker and protect it. Store provisions. What do you think that means?
Like granola bars and,
granola bars, get your coffee. What do you need? Get your water. There's nothing worse than getting started, making a call and saying, you know what, a cup of coffee would be great. And that, you're done. You might as well just go to Wendy's for a burger. Yeah. Snacks, water, coffee. You know, by the way, if you are time blocking for 3 hours, the idea is that you call for 50 minutes, 50 minutes, walk around for 10, go to the bathroom, then get on the hour, you're back on the phones. You know, I think sometimes it's not realistic to go 3 hours straight, but some people can do it, whatever you can do. Sweep for minds. This is a good one. What do you think that means?
So before you start, like if you know that something can distract you during that time.
What could distract you?
Your email, a seller, an email.
Yeah, so an email, bing,
Client, you know.
bing,
Notifications.
bing, texting, right? So you really shouldn't have your cell phone on a notification, all that. You gotta turn all that off. Do not disturb. Is that what it is? Yeah. Because it will distract you, and do not be staring at a computer screen. That email will pull you in. You know, by the way, email is the biggest waste of time ever. I pay somebody to look. I don't ever look at email. Have you guys ever sent me an email?
Yes.
Yeah, how'd that go?
Very interesting.
Uh-huh.
Which I knew was going to happen because I know.
I also don't have a voicemail on my phone.
I need to file an HR complaint.
About the voicemail.
I do risk that.
I'm here, I'm taking the file.
Yeah, by the way, Emily was in charge of my email. Sonia, is she still on?
Yes.
Sonia, I don't care who does it, it just isn't going to be me. I wrote people in all the time. Now, Sonia quit very quickly My email is actually very, very old. So everybody, you know, everything I ever bought, it's just, it'll drive people crazy. I get one email every 22 seconds. Yeah, so try to live that. So, all right. Somebody in the room was going to help us with a filter, but that didn't really work. Was that you, Dan?
Yeah, that was Larry. That was a Larry problem.
All right. Sweep for mind. You can't sit there. I can't have a file on my desk. I can't have notes. I can be distracted so easily that if I'm going to sit there and make calls, it really has to be a list. I prefer a list or whatever you do. If you're on Mojo or Vulcan 7 or whatever you're using, that's the only thing you should be looking at. Maybe something to write some notes on. But that's it. Everything else you have to get out of your way. It should be a 3 feet perimeter that is all around you empty of stuff. Yes.
If people interrupt you, how do you handle that? You're doing your one thing, people interrupt you.
Well, if you're doing your one thing, you have a headset on. And the beauty of a headset is that you don't even have to be talking to anybody. Right?
I need a headset.
Get a fake one.
I got one in the car now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Don't put those little earbuddy things in because nobody can see them. Put a sign on your door. Do you know that, okay, so Brian Perry, everybody knows Brian here in the Wayne office.
Yes.
Would anybody ever knock on his door at 9 in the morning?
Nope.
No. Why not?
Because he's not gonna answer it.
And if you do walk in, have you ever walked in?
Yeah.
Very upset.
You better not. So I'm brave with Brian because I worked with him on my team, but even I like to say a prayer before I open the door. Dear Lord, we're going to do this together. You're with me, right? He's trained us. He's trained us. So you have to realize you're training people to interrupt you. Yeah. Now, what are you going to do if I come in or Dan comes in, Emily?
Go away. Headset. Because Clay's gonna get.
Well, just do that to Dan.
Clay's gonna be a headset.
Okay, and then enlist support. What do you think that means?
Accountability partner.
Yeah, or say to everybody, listen, I'm going to go do my thing now. Please let me have 2 hours, 3 hours to do this. All right. The world doesn't know your purpose or your priorities, and it is not going to help you do it. Now, once you've done all this, you have time block. We're almost done, everybody. You're doing great. There are 4 thieves coming to steal your time away from you. You think you've got it all figured out now. You've got your calendar done. You've got your crime scene tape around you. You've enlisted support. You're so cute with your water and your granola bars. You've cleared your areas. You think everything's great, but you don't know about the 4 thieves. And the first one is the ability to say no. So anybody know about the story about Steve Jobs? What do we know about Steve Jobs?
Incredibly demanding.
Say that again?
Incredibly demanding and goal driven.
Okay, but in what area? What did he, Apple, right? Apple.
Oh.
So he was the CEO of Apple, founder of Apple, and then what happened to him?
Yeah, they fired.
They fired him.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what happened?
He came back.
He came back. When he came back, Apple as a company was working on 550 different projects. Now, when we say projects, what we're not realizing is that each project had a team around it and hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of time to develop whatever this team's product was. 550 of these going on. And he walked around and said, no, no, close it down. By the way, people lost their jobs because the project no longer existed. And he got it all the way down to 10. So he got rid of 500. He said no 540 times. 10 of them got a yes. One of them was a big success. Put the company on the map. Do you know what it was?
iPod.
It was the iPod, the music player thing. Who had an iPod?
Still
I
do.
just found it. the other
Still
day.
do?
Still do.
Don't admit
I got
that.
the one with the 250 gigs. It's still got all my music on it. It's in my cloud.
Can't lose
It's
it.
in my cloud and on my phone, but it's still in my iPod.
I had a mini, so it was really cool.
Oh,
Try to be me.
And you turn that mini on, and the noise that comes out of it, you're just like, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
this little small thing. It's
One of the 10 products.
Unbelievable.
So your inability to say no really will, and David Parker was talking about this earlier, that the top people that were interviewed by the editor of Success Magazine interviewed all of those people, and one of their ways of success is to say no. Gary Keller says no all the time. We say yes too much.
It's one of Leonardo DiCaprio's biggest keys to success. He says no to almost every script they bring him.
And he's amazing.
Yeah.
Let me just give me a minute. All right. The art of saying yes is by default the art of saying no. When you say yes, what are you really saying? To what? Probably to yourself, to your goals, to your family. You have no idea what that impact is. So make sure that when you say yes, that you really know what you're saying yes to. So that is the first thief that's going to come along and try to steal your time blocking time. Now what? Looks great to me.
It's the sound.
Okay, just give us a second.
I'm giving it time. I'm patient.
Testing.
Can I hear that now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
It's green.
So
on
that's
audio.
better. Yep.
All right, can I move on?
Okay, go.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Second number fear in this one is Mary Kenyon on the line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary. We just were talking about this in the car, the fear of chaos, right?
We were.
So once you start protecting your time and you get in what we call the bubble, the zone, you're on the phone, you're getting business, whatever your one thing is, along comes the thief of, oh my gosh, things are happening outside. Picture yourself in a submarine
Right there, okay?
and you're going down underneath to where you're making calls and it's just you in this world. The further down you go, the more pressure the water is giving you. And in this case, the water is people knocking on your door, you know, oh my gosh, there's a closing blowing up. Things are going to get messy. When you are successful and in that very highly productive zone, things around you are going to be messy. Your desk is going to be messy. You might not be returning all the calls. This is where people sometimes start looking for leverage because I'm so in the zone, my people aren't getting touched enough. You've got to be aware that chaos is going to happen, not only at work, not only in that bunker, but when you get home. Have you ever been in a really productive zone of time frame when you're making a lot of money in this business and all of a sudden you look at your walk-in closet and 5 outfits that you wore that week are like sprawled out over, you know, your shoes are over here, you meant to put the earrings away, they're up, everything gets messy. And you have to be okay with that. You have to realize that success is messy. Your desk is going to be messy, your files are going to be messy, things are not going to be perfect. And don't let that distract, oh, I better stop everything and clean my desk. No, throw it under. It's okay, throw it under the desk, nobody will see it. Not you, Mary. Mary has a world under her desk. Like people live there.
It's actually not bad.
The
It's
further
good
you
right
go down, the more chaos is going to happen. And the fear of it and the uncomfortableness of that will bring you up out of your submarine. All of a sudden you're returning voicemails, you're looking at your email, you're calling title companies, and that willpower that you had to lead generate is gone. Just realize when you're in the zone, things around you are going to be messy. Everybody understand that? If you strive for excellence, chaos will show up. If everything is running smooth, then I challenge your productivity. If you tell me you're all caught up in life, I'm like, okay, let's sit down and put another plan together. Number 3, thief is poor health habits. In the One Thing book and the MREA book, Gary Keller tells you 5 things for your personal energy plan. One of them is that every morning you wake up and you meditate and pray, whatever your thing is, have a quiet moment, journal, whatever your thing is, for spiritual energy. Then you eat right, you exercise, and you sleep sufficiently. No more of this 7-hour, 6-hour sleep. Whatever your body needs for a good night's rest, give it to it. Rest is the most stress, will reduce more stress in your life than anything. Ask me what I do. Aaron, you on the phone? I mean, you on the Zoom? Let's see, I catch him. Aaron? Done. I have a nap every Saturday at 2 p.m. If I don't have that nap, something happens during the following week. I just know my body. So I actually wake up super early. Most people sleep in on Saturdays, you know, if they're not working. I don't. I wake up early because it's all about that nap. Number 3, you want to, in the morning, hug, kiss, and laugh with your loved ones for emotional energy. Number 4, set goals and plan your calendar for the day for your mental energy. And the last one is time block your one thing for your business energy. All this should be done before you leave the house. What happened?
We need to be on number 3.
Oh, thank you. Here's your 5 things. Thank you, Minnie. Meditate and pray for spiritual, eat right, exercise, hug, kiss, and laugh, set goals, time block your one thing. Number 4 thing. Well, sorry. It's in the book. It's in the book.
No, it's not in our book.
Yeah, it's in the One Thing book on page.
Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. 201.
I'll leave it up because somebody might be writing it.
Okay, thank you. That's great.
By the book.
It's somewhere.
Yeah, buy the book.
By the book.
You want to know how this ends? Buy the book.
Tune in tomorrow.
All right. Any questions on any of these, by the way? Anybody stop and do number 3 with their family in the morning?
Depends. Most of the time we're fighting with the kids to get out of bed, to get ready for school, and to be ready to walk out the door when Billy needs to get out the door. So, yeah.
So one of the people that I admire, he was actually the team leader who started this office. So I was an ALC member and he was the team leader. He would every day have a joke of the day. And once the kids were all ready, they would line up for his joke of the day. I always thought that was cute. By the way, the jokes were awful. Because we learned about that and we would have him come and tell us the joke of the day. But it got him ready, you know, got him out of bed, and that was they all laughed or didn't laugh or said, oh, that was stupid.
What? I was on the phone. Did you say something to me?
Yeah, you got caught.
What, being on the phone?
What am I doing every Saturday afternoon?
Napping.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What are you doing every Tuesday afternoon?
Wishing I was napping.
So why you don't answer my calls?
Number 4. And your environment doesn't support your goals. So this is a huge one. And it doesn't just mean here at work or at your office or, you know, if you're working from home. I'll use Dan as an example on this. When we first brought Dan into KW, he's the team leader in Boynton Beach. He, within the first few days, we shut the office down because we were like, welcome, but don't actually come in here. We're shutting it down because of the coronavirus. So he immediately had to start working from home, and he worked from an ironing board as the desk. I don't know if that environment supported his every goal. Do you know what I mean? So it could mean the place that you're working, you know, is there a place that has a 3-foot clearance for you on your goals. But it could be the environment itself. Are you coming to an office that's negative? I don't know, a lot of people that work with us now have only worked with KW, so they don't have a story to bring with them. But I've worked with offices that were not like us. And, you know, I don't want to say who they are. Do we have guests on here? Okay, I'm moving on because I don't know the answer to that. But so the environment was not productive. I didn't really love going there. It was kind of a negative thing. Everybody just went into their offices and shut the door. It wasn't, you know, wasn't like we are. So, by the way, it could mean that your environment at home. There are some people whose careers are not supported by their spouses. So that could be really a thief of your time block and your goals also. So always make sure your environment is going to support, whether it's the people or the place that's going to hold up that one thing that you've set today. Any question on that?
Knew what he was doing, that's why.
All right, tell me what you guys have learned so far on all of this, because we are going to wrap this up. It is 3:40. And so we've gone through quite a bit of the strategies of the book, not every one of them. I would love for us to have book clubs, or you dive into it yourself. Maybe your action step is to read this book 5 minutes every morning, and that's how you're going to work on your mindset. Tell me what you guys thought. Tell me an action step. Have I got everybody unmuted, Dan?
No, they should be able to unmute themselves.
If you could unmute yourself, because we no longer have the chat box support. And just tell me what you got out, one thing that you've learned from the one thing. Yes.
Like the success list.
Success list versus a to-do list. Beautiful, beautiful. What else?
I think I like hearing about focusing on successful patterns and behavior at the core of your person and your work, instead of details and tactics about real estate business.
Right. So this is not a real estate book we're talking to. It's a business book with strategies that will help you, but it's not just business. I mean, and we went through all the 7 circles. Those were not all business, for sure. Okay. What else?
Interesting that the top 200 CEOs of Forbes magazine all have to deal with mindset things.
Biggest challenge.
Which is the biggest challenge for every agent that I am working with now. It's being able to wrap their head around and getting their mindset right. That's why it's the #1 thing I focus on.
And getting rid of limiting beliefs that are holding them back.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Listen
huge.
to the lies.
Good. Okay, Boca, Boynton on Zoom, what have you got? Mary Kenyon, what'd you learn? Aaron Ellis.
I mean, of course I know this, but the 4 thieves of productivity.
Yeah, 3:30.
That rob you?
Yeah.
4 thieves?
So it's just
Which
another.
one spoke to you the most?
Inability to say no and that fear of chaos.
Yep. Get you every time. By the way, when somebody comes to you and they're absolutely panicked about where to start in their day or their life or their career, what is it that they're really lacking? What is that? When you're really unfocused, what is really happening? I mean, a lot of agents come to us, Mary, I'm sure you can relate, where they just are paralyzed with what do they do next. Does that make sense? You there?
Oh, yes. Oh, I didn't know. I thought you were just making a statement.
No. Have you ever had any agents come to you that are just stuck, paralyzed, or stuck?
Yeah. Some are even stuck of where to start.
Right. So, and you know, that could be they could become very unfocused. They're all over the place. That's just a lack of priority. They forgot what the priority is. So to sit down and do the to-do list versus the success list will really help them. But, you know, let's just see what's all this stuff. I'm not going to disagree that you don't have a lot on your mind, because we all do, don't we? Oh my gosh. Let's get it all on paper. Let's dump it out of our heads and get it on paper, and then we can start to prioritize it.
Yeah, I love that exercise.
Also, the 7 circles. You could do that exercise with your people. Could you do the 7 circles with your kids?
Absolutely. Great ones to do it with.
Yeah, you just maybe they're not 7 of them. Maybe there's 3 of them or 4 of them. All right, any other ha-has from the day? Was it of value to you at all? Do you guys like the book?
I think the book is awesome. This is Monty. I listened to it. I have it on Audible, and I listen to it during my morning walks, and it's really cool. One of the things that really stood out today from your presentation, Jackie, was about being okay with things being messy. That drives me nuts, and that kind of gives me a hall pass. You know, not that I can let things get totally out of control, but not have to be such a perfectionist, you know?
You counterbalance. After a while, it's so out of control, you got to jump over and handle it.
One of the things, I've listened to a YouTube video where someone interviewed Gary Keller by phone about the book. And one of the 2 concepts that he tied together, you presented them, and he tied them together for me, that relates to that was that you know, think about the big picture success you can create by focusing on the one thing, and that will allow you to clean up the mess. So he used a more simple example, like, you know, if you had to focus in for 90 days on your one thing, and that meant you couldn't mow your yard would get messy and not look good. But if you could then afford to hire someone to mow your yard, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can keep staying focused. And you extend that out as wherever the mess starts happening, focus in, that's where you'll redistribute your resources. Once you accomplish the big picture.
Yeah. By the way, we didn't talk about all of the book today. There's a 66-day habit thing in here. I was hopeful to roll out some of the strategies that would entice you to open the book and start to read the book.
Conversation with him.
A lot of our agents are intimidated by the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Red Book. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I will share with you that this is a very simple read. So don't be afraid of it. Jump in, get a highlighter and start jumping in on it. Any other ahas? That was really great, Monty. Thank you. Success is 2 things. If you're going to be successful, 2 things are going to happen, and you better be ready for them. The first one we already talked about is that it's going to be messy. The second thing is it's going to be boring. Success is super boring. You're going to be doing the same thing every day, picking up the phone, same script. Can we have another script? No, that one's working. Same thing. Calling the same neighborhood, talking to the same people. When you take a physical challenge and you start going to the gym, you're doing the same weightlifting, same sit-up, same thing. But the results are exciting, not the actual steps every day. It could be very boring. And you want to take your foot off the lead generation pedal because it's so boring. Don't do it. Make peace with things getting messy and things getting boring, and success will come. Are we good, you guys? I don't know how to look at you. Are we all good?
Yeah.
Larry's good. That's all that matters.
Nice job. Nice job, Jackie.
All right. So we will continue to bring you some fabulous new classes coming up. I want everybody to don't give up. Do not stop working because the holidays are coming. It's a really big mistake. 90% of the real estate population has now checked out. The very fact that you're on this Zoom means that you are different. So continue to be different. Get some business. Talk to people. Reach out.
Love it.
Goodbye.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Love you so much.
Hi. What are you making for dinner?
I'm starving. If you saw my lunch, you know why.
I think that's also very